Okay, do you want to do the intro or should I?
That's up to you. I can do
Cool.
it.
Alrighty.
Welcome back to the Old Colony Cast podcast about all things Plymouth and surrounding areas. I am your host, Andy. Again, we're without Hannah today, but I believe she'll be back for the next one. And that other voice that you almost heard was our interrupted editor, Fish.
Awkward silence. Sorry. Yellow.
Oh, did I step on your lines? I apologize.
I'm afraid to talk now because I don't trust you to let me.
Well, yeah, at least you
On the
learn.
other hand, I do mute your microphone, so I suppose if I want to talk, I can talk.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And you have all the controls on your side. So.
I have all the power and none of the will to use it.
It's not the first episode. They get it.
Yeah, God. Alrighty, so I suppose this is usually the part where, again, we have small talk and banter, and we all...
Yeah. But, I mean, this is the third one that we've recorded.
This is the third episode we've recorded
all
in
our
the last... we have no bits left. We have no jokes.
Happy. Oh, no, that was the last one. I got nothing.
Happy belated birthday to my mother, I think. Yep. That's all I got.
Happy birthday to Fish's mom. Is it a big one this year for Fish's mom?
Every birthday is a big birthday when you're loved.
Wow. Okay, then.
I'm sorry, and you blew Happy New Year on. You chose Happy New Year over your birthday. It is not my
I'm
fault.
not going to wish myself happy birthday. That's stupid.
I'm sorry. Happy belated birthday, Andy.
Whatever. I don't want your pity birthdays.
Yes, you do.
I know. I do. Kind of.
You want all of my pity birthdays. So, hold on. Oh, I get to do the toss.
Yes, you do. That's why I did the intro.
It's never... You do the intro and the toss all the time anyway.
I know. I just wanted to step on your line.
God, Hannah, I miss you. I miss Andy's attention being divided between two people to annoy.
Yeah, at least you're quiet then I don't get so, on you.
Yeah. So, Andy, what are we talking about today?
Well, if you've listened to the last two episodes,
Which I have.
and you're still listening to this one, even though Hannah's not on this one.
Thank you. It's rewarding to know that.
Well, yeah, first of all, thank you.
Yeah, thank you
for
for
listening to any episode.
Yeah,
even this is
really,
your first
we
one.
appreciate it.
But if you've heard me twice say that we really love our rocks in this.
Did you also do a rock?
I did something rock adjacent.
Is it rock and or roll?
Pretty close. The Rathskellar, also known as the Rat. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
I got no idea what you're talking about.
This will be interesting. Oh, well, that would make a lot of sense. So
Is it cool?
it's super cool.
Oh, that's why I don't know anything about it.
But it's also like a timing thing that would make sense that you wouldn't really know about it. Have you heard of CBGB's?
Yes.
It's the legendary rock and punk club in New York.
Yeah.
The Rathskellar, or the Rat,
Okay.
is Boston's legendary rock and punk club.
Okay.
You guys, if you want, after this episode, you can bop on over to the Inebri-art podcast and, oh my God, I'm going to blank on his name now. Not Mike Josa. He's local. Mike Greco.
Oh, the cameraman.
There are two episodes, yes, with Mike Greco. The second one is about his book of photography from the early and mid-'80s of him hanging out in music clubs, taking photos of bands, and the Rat was one of the most popular ones of its time.
As the guy who edited that episode, which means I have heard of this. I don't retain anything.
To be fair, that was 3.5 years ago.
At least.
At least.
Yeah.
So in the 1960s,
yes.
there was a local band called The Remains. And they had opened for the Beatles.
Good name for a band.
Yeah, I know. It's a really good name.
Yeah.
I want to look them up. And they had opened for the Beatles, and whenever they played locally, they had huge turnouts.
Right.
So they used to play at a place called TJ's. And they ended up opening up the basement because there's so many people showing up to hear them play.
Right.
The Rat didn't come around until the mid 1975, I believe. I felt like I had a connection with it.
You also did not come around until 1975.
To much less fanfare.
You didn't have an opening band
So
either.
former TJ's worker, Jimmy Harold, took over from the previous owner, and he turned the restaurant that was street level into Hoodoo Barbecue, which was listed in Esquire in an article about the 100 best restaurants in America, which is cool because I don't feel like we have amazing barbecue in Boston that I know of, anyways.
No, that's why we go to Sturbridge.
Yeah, and he in '75 he turned the bottom into, I'm going to call it a music venue, but it's a dive bar. I mean, like the diviest of dive bars, as all dive bars should be.
Yes, you have very strong thoughts about dive bars.
I do. I love me a good dive bar.
You do.
And in 1976, they put out an album, so like a year after it opened.
Okay.
They put out an album called Live at the Rat, and the first 3 years of WBCN's Rock and Rumble were held there, and those were kind of like a couple of things that like really pushed it toward the forefront of the music industry on the East Coast.
Okay.
So it was mostly cover bands, but Jimmy somehow developed basically a pipeline between the Rat and CBGB's. So like New York bands that played at CBGB's would come to the Rat, and Boston bands would go play CBGB's. And when bands came over from Europe, they would either do like the Rat then CBGB's or vice versa.
Yeah, basically, if you hit one, you hit the other.
Exactly. So it was just kind of, and the people who've played this club are like the biggest of the big.
Okay.
He was always said to have a heart of gold and really take care of people, even though that in the beginning, the Rat kind of developed a reputation of maybe not paying the bands as much as they were supposed to. Maybe their bouncers were a little overly ambitious when escorting people out. But it was kind of...
So yeah, dive bar.
Yeah. It was also kind of implied that the workers kind of kept that information from Jimmy because they know he wouldn't approve.
Yeah.
So he was almost like he kind of was kept in the dark. There was a WFNX DJ, Bruce McDonald, who I'm not familiar with. His high school, or not his high school band, his punk band from high school.
How hardcore would a high school band have to be?
Dude, I would have loved that in high school.
I would have, like, we are two high school band escapees, and yeah, we did like marching band. We didn't do
concert and jazz, and
like we did like concert band. You had a jazz band. You did not have
a punk.
Your punk.
No.
You didn't have high school punk band.
But we'll get to the brass musicians that have played there.
Okay.
But so Bruce McDonald, his band from high school was there doing a sound check, and rats came running out from underneath the stage. And so he was kind of like, yes, it was the Rat for more than one reason. And he said that they would light incense to cover up the smell of like dead rats.
Yeah.
The dressing room was like cramped and covered in graffiti. So like your band was there, you just like wrote on the wall. Apparently the bathrooms were like legendarily filthy and had no doors, or doors were always open. But the reason why it became like the place to play is it had like an A-level sound system and a soundman by the name Granny Weidman. Sorry, couldn't tell that was an irony. And the sound there was so good that's why people would go. And that's why bands would want to play.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like such a dive that rules didn't apply. I mean, I don't want to say they didn't apply. Rules were pretty much ignored.
Yeah.
So there was a promoter, Joel Feingold, and he tells a story about at 3 a.m. after like the band had finished playing and the place was supposed to be closed. a bunch of people were up in Hoodoo Barbecue drinking.
Right.
And Jimmy somehow caught wind and came in and was ticked because essentially he's putting their liquor license.
Yeah, because we're closed, guys. You can't do this. You're going to get a shutdown.
And they were drinking wine, and he grabbed one of their wine glasses and bit a chunk off of the wine glass and spit it into the wine glass and said, "Get the F out of my bar." Which then everybody did.
I'm sorry, bit?
Right, yes. So this, and that's kind of what I love about this bar is it is like punk rock through and through. There's no doors on the bathroom. It was well known to have like fights and drugs and very like 1980s punk rock.
Yeah.
Very anti-establishment. However, Kathy Logue, L-O-G-U-E, how would you pronounce that?
Logue,
who was a booker in the 80s, said that Jimmy had such a big heart that like once you became part of the Rat family, which I love that, you were treated like actual family.
Yeah.
He was known to have Sox season tickets, and he would take his employees and friends and band members to see games. He would schedule trips up to Loon Mountain and take everybody skiing. He'd take them out on his boat, which was called the Liberty. I don't know. It's not very punk rock, but... and the only... it is apropos of nothing, but at that point, the article that I was reading about this specifically mentioned that his favorite beer was Miller Lite. I don't know why. I just thought that was interesting.
Okay. Also did the writer of the article.
Yeah. And he's a very well-liked and respected, but a little bit of feared.
Yeah, one of those guys.
Yeah, which, I mean, I feel like if you're going to be...
the owner of a punk rock dive
in the
bar,
1980s,
you kind of need to be
little... You have to be intimidating somewhat.
Yeah, it's like, he's a super likable guy. Do not push him.
Yeah, they referred to him walrus-like, so... I'll give you a rough idea of what he looked like.
All right. Big dude, big mustache. Big dude.
Yeah. In the 1997, this is probably why you weren't that familiar with it.
Right.
Is when it closed.
Okay.
So you're probably too young to be like a concert goer at that age.
Yeah. Also, I was 14. I was not a punk rock kid at that point.
But I mean, it's not just punk rock, but
like I wasn't a big concert goer anyway as a kid. So like a place in Boston that played music I didn't listen to wasn't going to be my radar.
I'd have to say, like, I very much regret not going there. It was right in kind of like the wheelhouse when I was really starting to get into going to concerts.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's kind of a bummer because it sounded like it would be a lot of fun.
Sorry for your loss.
Yeah, a little bit. So in 97, there was a bartender, Brian Stoker, and he wanted to buy the Rat and keep it going. But Harold told him that he had other things in mind.
Okay.
And there was a lot of like development. Apparently, like you cannot even really like it looks nothing like it did of the day. So
I'd imagine not.
Yeah. So the last show was November 15th in 1997.
Okay.
And the band that played last was Gangrene.
Okay.
And I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this without swearing, but place went absolutely bonkers during the show. There was reports of a wall coming down, and that the lead singer was encouraging the crowd to kind of tear the place apart.
Yeah.
Because they knew it was going away. And one report even said that Jimmy was upstairs trying to sell off like memorabilia for high prices.
And people downstairs were
just tearing the place apart.
It's like, this is my bar stool now.
Yeah. So Chris Doherty, who was the lead singer of the Gangrene, said, through the microphone, said, "I can't tell anybody to calm the F down because no one's getting banned for life." And apparently getting banned for life was like Jimmy's threat to everybody. To bands, to employees.
Oh, yeah, because it's that kind of thing where if you've got the place.
Right, to get banned for life would be like the worst.
And plus,
especially if you're a band.
And plus, if you're a band and you get banned from Rathskellar, you're probably getting banned from CBGBs too. Because
that's also true.
It would be a reciprocal thing.
So the aforementioned bartender, Brian Stoker, who wanted to buy the place and was told no. When people would come up to the bar, he was telling them he had run out of free vodka, but would you rather some free gin? So it was like bedlam. And that had to be a legendary show. I even went and found there's still recordings of live performances on YouTube from different places, different people playing at the Rat. And sadly, it was torn down in 2000, and it was to make way for the Hotel Commonwealth. The hotel created the Rathskellar Suite, which was decorated with memorabilia.
Oh.
And to a lot of people...
That sounds awful. Like, it sounds wrong.
Well, what sounds wrong is at the time of the article that was written, which I think was a few years old, not super old.
Yep.
The going rate was $500 to $1,000 a night. And even like the bands that had played in the past were like, that's not
That's
cool.
more than we got paid.
Well, probably way more. Because you're talking like 70s and 80s bands playing. So, you know, that is what it is, but at least it lives on in some way.
All righty, let's see. Said the Hotel Commonwealth, right?
Yep. You have it there listed there?
Let's see. Signature Suites, Reading Terrier, Rathskellar Suite.
What does it go for?
Let's see.
I want to stay there now just because. I want to go there. I want to stay in that suite and have them come up and complain about the noise. That seems fitting.
All right, let's see. 1-bedroom suite, 600 square feet. Breathtaking views of Boston's historic Kenmore Square and Commonwealth Avenue. So if you get the right angle, you might see the statue of Leif Erikson from 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, go back to the...
A king bed with imported Italian linens, plush down comforters, and luxurious pillows. Separate living room divided by modern French doors. And a marble bathroom.
Does it say there's no door in the bathroom?
I think it's implied.
Okay.
Alrighty, let's see. So say we want to stay there for one night at the end of the week. From $400 a night.
Okay, so it doesn't sound like it's changed much. It might have come down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of thing where it's like it looks like a nice hotel room.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like you look and it's got like a framed pic. Like, you know how like the wall of stickers?
Yeah.
Like they took a chunk of that and framed it.
Oh, that's cool.
Which, cool, but it's the wrong vibe.
It's like the vibe of trying to open a dive bar. You can't open a dive bar. You have to open a bar and become a dive bar.
You open a bar and then don't quite fail.
Yeah. Don't fail, but don't really do much.
Succeed barely. But it's one of those things where having a luxury suite at a high-end hotel named after the diviest punk dive bar music space is just it's missing the point. Yeah, it would be like having a 55 plus community named after the Sex Pistols. Like at this point
it doesn't
they
make sense.
Live there, but that's not the point.
Yeah. So, however, in 2017,
right,
the hotel threw a party for former employees and bands to celebrate. There was a documentary called Live at the Rat Suite.
Okay.
Which I couldn't find streaming, but it looks like it might just be live performances and not like I don't want to say formal documentary, but like a story-driven documentary. Like It looks like it might just be live performances.
Okay.
And then sadly, just 2 years ago, in July 31st, 2022, Jimmy Harold passed away. I couldn't find a reason, and one thing I actually saw said that the family wasn't really talking about why.
Yeah.
So I kind of
at that point felt like I didn't want to look in,
No, it's also one of those things where the guy opened a rock club 50 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he was not a particularly young man.
No. Like, no, he was an older dude.
80, like late, like 80s, probably.
So, some of the bands
yes,
that have graced the doorway here.
Oh, I can't wait to see how far down the list we go before I either do or don't recognize someone.
Steve Earle was the first one on the list. I don't know who that is. Second one's Jonah Jett.
Yeah, I know who Joan Jett is.
Okay. When I was poking around on YouTube to see who would play, what was up there, there was a set from Ween.
Okay.
Metallica.
Never heard of them.
The Police, The Ramones, R.E.M., Sonic Youth, Talking Heads, Thin Lizzy, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, The Cars, The Pixies. Metallica is on here twice for some reason. Dead Kennedys. Oh, because I took these lists from 2 different locations.
Okay.
I'm like, this is the same list. Dinosaur Jr., The Replacements, Soundgarden, Quiet Riot. Everybody played
basically this. If you were a rock
pretty
band
sure the B-52s played there as well.
Of any note from the 70s to the 90s, you were there.
Yeah.
Because
and that's the thing is it was, and I find it fascinating because it started off as a cover band or a place that cover bands played, and then he just kind of committed to no, we're gonna have original acts, and then got the cream of the crop, and I even looked up some of the last shows there. What was the last one? Gangrene. I've heard of them, but they're not a household name. So even towards the end, they were still supporting local music, and
got people trying to be
So 97, Metallica wasn't playing there in 97.
No.
82, they might have been playing.
Yeah,
there,
but that's the whole thing. You see Metallica in 82, and you're like, I like these guys. They might go somewhere, and then 18 months later, they're everywhere.
And the thing that I find really, really... Oh, there was one thing that I wrote down here that is kind of like just a side note.
Okay.
So the guy who originally owned it, who ran TJ's, he had a bunch of other businesses, but the one that jumped out at me was he owned Strawberry Records.
Huh.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So back in the day, I used to work at Stop and Shop when I was a kid.
Okay.
And this kid I worked with was like, I'm getting tickets to go see this band. It was a little known band, and I think tickets were like $12. And I'm like, all right, grab me a ticket. I ended up with this crazy headache, and I bailed. I'm pretty sure it was at the Rat, but don't quote me on that. It could be just my memory wanting it to be at the Rat.
Okay.
But the band was Marilyn Manson. I almost went and saw Marilyn Manson in a tiny little club in Boston for $12.
Fair.
Yeah. It's...
See, the thing is, you say that, I'm like, yeah, I think $12 is the most I would pay to go see Marilyn Manson.
Oh, no, it goes.
It's not my jam.
Yeah, but it's a spectacle.
I know, but it's not my spectacle.
All right.
It's one of those things where I'm like, I get the work and effort and skill put in. I'm just not going to enjoy any of it.
And I said we would mention the brass connection.
Go on.
Some of the bands that were well known to get their start there were the Dropkick Murphys.
Yep.
And the Mighty Mighty Bosstones.
Yeah, that track's completely
right.
That's
perfect era,
the right time, the right style.
Yep.
And I mean, if you're talking Boston punk scene, you're talking about
the Mighty Mighty Bosstones and
Dropkick.
Yeah. And so I think it's one of those places that didn't matter who was playing, people were going to go.
Yeah, because you are almost guaranteed a show.
Right. And I think even though it sounds like one of the dumpiest, crappiest bars.
Oh no! You go in there, you go in there and you need a tetanus shot.
Yeah, it had wall to wall carpeting. Yeah. Which in a bar is just nasty.
I'd burn my shoes.
Yeah. So
I wouldn't burn my shoes. I don't know what's on them. That God.
Yeah. So
I can't think of a dumber decision in my in life than dive bar wall to wall carpeting.
Right.
And I'm so disappointed I never got to go. I feel like it would have been one of the best nights.
God.
Yeah.
That's traumatic.
Yeah, I mean, but it like I said, you can't open a place like that. It has to evolve.
Oh, no, you can't. No. Like, we've talked about dive bars, mostly on Bar Talk, where you can't open a dive bar. Dive bars happen.
Yeah, and it's just like...
You open a bar, and then you just realize your clientele is them.
And it just had that right mentality of, if we're going to spend money, we're going to spend it on the sound system, and then bands are going to want to play here.
Yeah.
And it I know Boston's have mentioned it in songs, but there's at least 3 or 4 bands who've mentioned the Rat in songs.
Yeah.
Sometimes fondly, sometimes not fondly.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm sure some bands have gone in there, like, had a good set, but then got gypped and then ended up in, like, a bar fight. And now our bass player's thumb is broken. What are we supposed to do for the next 6 weeks?
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like you can play bass without a thumb.
Depends on which thumb.
Yeah. I feel like a finger would be way worse.
Okay, I don't think it really matters which,
I'm not
digits
saying,
are damaged.
It would
I
be
can't
a
play
pleasant
bass.
experience. I'm just saying. I feel like you could get it, especially if you're a punk band. You're gonna be on drugs anyways.
I know, but I think. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure it. That would be unpleasant.
Yeah,
because either you've got the entire thing leaning on your thumb.
So I got so into not even I can't be nostalgic about a place I've never been, but I can be nostalgic about the time.
Oh, I'm sure there's a German word for that.
Where I found a quote from his daughter, and I looked up his daughter online, who's very easy to find, and I almost messaged her to kind of see if I could, but then I'm like, there's no way she's gonna get back to me in any kind of reasonable amount of time for some sort of statement for the show. But so that's the Rathskellar. And the other part to think about it is you have this horrible punk disaster of a club right underneath one of the 100 best restaurants. So welcome to Boston.
Yeah, you stop in for dinner and end up with
hepatitis.
It's what happened? I got so sick after I went to that dinner there. Why? We went downstairs and it was a punk show.
I mean,
and
it's the same
amazing.
building. It's the same building. So if one had rats, the other definitely had.
Oh yeah, and it's one of those things where it's if you're there late enough, I don't know what the soundproofing situation was like, but I'm sure that if you were there at the restaurant late, you basically ended up at the show.
I bet you the restaurant wasn't open late enough because those kind of shows don't start till at least 9.
Yeah, I suppose. So, I just figure it's last call, and as the opening act is kicking
there might
off.
be a little overlap, but and
then you end up just going, I'll go downstairs and see what's up.
Yeah, it just made me kind of really miss those kind of I used to go to Axis and Avalon a lot.
Yeah,
and those were, I don't feel like they were quite as divey, but they're small clubs.
Yeah, in that small club, small intimate show is.
Yeah, I love them.
Yeah, it's your thing.
It's like a chaos. It's a very, very friendly chaos most of the time.
Yeah.
So, but that's the Rat. So if you find live performances, check them out because everybody played there. So, I guess this is the part where we stop talking. Do I say this part, or do you say that? And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.